Welcome into a Week 6 Giants Hangout brought to you by Crestron. My name is Madeline Berg, joined as always by Russ Salzberg, Brandon London, and Matt Sytek. Guys, of course, the elephant in the room. Giants coming off a tough loss in New Orleans. The Saints got their first win of the season. Jackson Dart got his first loss as a starting quarterback. Russ, when you look at this game, I mean, how do you evaluate it overall? What's your biggest takeaway?
Well, I mean, there's only one way to evaluate it. I'm not interested in any statistics except two: the final score and 5 turnovers on 5 consecutive drives. I mean, it's as Coach Dable said in the postgame. He must have said it 5 or 6 times. It's on a you can't win games that way. That performance to me, I think everybody. If you were a Giants fan, you were probably excited the way the game started. You say, this is what we want. You got your quarterback, you got your running back. This is the future. It's all clicking. And then it imploded. I mean, I was left dumbfounded. I mean, there's no other way for me to say it. There was not a whole lot of positives you can take out of that.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned the way it started, too. It seemed like they were getting the tight ends involved early. Daniel Bellinger, Theo Johnson with 2 touchdowns. You know, Brandon, as a wide receiver, this was the first game after Malik Neighbors was ruled out for the season with the ACL. The way that the Giants kind of made do without Neighbors using the tight end, what did you see there?
I was a little disappointed in the Giants receivers on this one because they were well coached by Mike Groh, who I've known since I was a kid. I know about the work that these Giants receivers have put in for a moment like this, especially when we talk about opportunity. But for them to kind of not come down with some of the plays that they were supposed to make. And as a wide receiver room, you have the confidence in making those sort of plays. It just takes me back to like the Plaxico Burress and Amani Toomer days where they'd be like, you never know how many opportunities you're going to get in this league. You have to seize each and every one of them and have fun while doing it. And they didn't seize it or have fun. But shout out to the tight ends for stepping up. They were consistent enough to where I feel like they've earned themselves more targets going forward throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, some tough opportunities for the receivers there. The also, the defense, it was the first game the Giants defense didn't have a sack on the quarterback. They weren't really able to apply as much pressure as we saw in week 4, Matt, against the Chargers. When you look at the way that the defense performed in week 5 in New Orleans, what's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, look, we came into the season knowing that the success of this team was kind of going to have to ride at least a little bit on the defense's back, and especially the defensive front, the pass rush. So, with the guys the Giants have up front with Dex, Burns, Abdul, Kayvon, if none of those guys are going to hit home on a sack, it's going to be tough for this defense to be, constantly applying pressure and to, make the big plays that is needed in order to pick up the victories. And we saw that yesterday. I mean, Abdul did, his pressure numbers actually ended up looking okay, but he was just about the only one. No one else really was able to get pressure. And then, I mean, Spencer Rattler won his first game as a starting quarterback. I mean, kind of feel like that says all you need to know right there.
Yeah, Rattler's career started 0-10 as a starter, but you know what? Jared Goff also lost his first 10 games as a starting quarterback, and look at how well he's ascended. So sometimes, a rough start isn't necessarily a barometer for the talent the player has in them. But yes, it was the first win for Spencer Rattler. It was the first win for Kellen Moore as the head coach of the Saints. And, it was a performance I think the Giants are going to want back. But luckily, Brandon, this as a player, the first thing you want to do when you lose a game like that is get back on the field. Luckily, the Giants have a short week with a division opponent on Thursday Night Football. Giants, Eagles, what's your biggest focus in this one?
I mean, as a player, it's a soul-searching moment. You're gonna flush this loss as fast as possible, but you were excited about the plane ride home. You probably had Spades game ready, like you're gonna talk a little trash on that plane ride to get ready, thinking you're gonna be 2-3 going into a primetime matchup against the Eagles. Now, what this does is it puts you into an uptight mode, and this is what you don't want a football team with young players on it, young players in terms of the production. You don't want them to be uptight going up against an Eagles team. So it's you flush it. The tape, like we say, is never as good as when you rewatch it. It's never as bad when you rewatch it. Now you have to shift that focus to, all right, we really have to detail our work to give ourselves a chance on Thursday night. So now it's these short weeks, you flush and you refocus. But with a team full of young guys, and especially a team full of guys who've lost and been in this situation before, you wonder what that mentality is going to be like and how loose they can play, how much fun they can have on Thursday night.
Well, and you'd like to think too that, oh, go ahead, Russ.
No, I was going to say to both of you, I think you nailed it, Brandon. And Madeline, this short week, if they won, as Brandon was saying, had they won the game, then they go into this short week at 2-3, and then the momentum, then they're pumped up. Now we got the Eagles coming. Well, hey, we could be 500 beating our division foe. Instead, that's a long plane ride home. They're in the doldrums. They know what they did. You're not feeling good about yourself after that kind of performance. So I think this short week might kind of hurt. It's that kind of situation. And you know what? The Eagles didn't do them a favor by losing, because now they're going to be angry themselves. So this is.
Well, I think to your point, though, Russ, I mean, if the Eagles lost their first game of the season, they're angry at themselves. They want to rebound and do better. The Giants are probably feeling the same way. Like I mean, I understand the deflated mentality, but also they're probably angry at themselves. They know that they're better than 5 straight turnovers on 5 straight possessions. And they probably are eager to get out there and show that as well and say, all right, how do we bounce back against an Eagles team that, yes, is 4-1 and yes, won their first 4 games of the season, but did so in a fashion that's, Matt, I mean, that's not really comparable to how they had been playing at their championship level, right? This is an Eagles team that has found their way to win some games, but not necessarily at the same caliber offensively as we know of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, they are 4-1, and they have won, something, what is it, like 20 of their last 21 games, something crazy like that. So there's no doubt that this is obviously still at least one of the best teams in the NFC. But you're right that it does somewhat look like an Eagles team that's a little more susceptible than, the team that we matched up against last year. And I know, obviously with Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia, that is going to be a big storyline every time these two teams play, as long as he's a member of the team. But the Giants, one of the things they actually did do well against the Saints is they did contain the run game kind of for the first time all season. Now, granted, the Philadelphia Eagles have a much better rushing attack than the New Orleans Saints, but nonetheless, 88 yards on 30 carries, that's under 3 yards per carry. That part is great. For me, the thing that I'm I guess a little more concerned about or keeping an eye on is the Eagles pass catchers, because that has been, you talk about a big storyline in Philadelphia. They obviously had some displeasure with a couple of their top receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and it seemed like Jalen Hurts was sort of trying to force it to him a little bit yesterday. Devontae Smith had a great game. A.J. Brown still not quite, the numbers we're accustomed to seeing from him. I feel like come Thursday night, the Eagles might again want to get those two going, and considering the performance of the Giants secondary against a much less talented Saints pass catching group, that's where I would have my focus on come Thursday night.
And Madeline, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a different type of angry that both teams are going in. Like for the Eagles, you're angry at yourself for, yes, losing that game, but you also had a chance to win that game against Denver. So you're looking at it, it's almost like that Falcons loss they had last year early in the season when they went for it and Saquon dropped that ball. Then they went on a run after that. For the Giants, it's a different type of angry. And Russ, you can back me up on this one, because now it's not an angry like you're hungry. It's now you're having to have the perfect hunt. You're going in and you're thinking like, okay, if I drop a ball, does this mean the game is over? No, not that's not how the Eagles are going into this. So I'm glad you talked about, Matt, how they stopped the run. Now they got to shore up the outsides on the perimeter, and that's where Spencer Rattler had kind of alluded to. That's where the Saints were going to attack and try and create some sort of big play. So for the Giants, play off of that. Be angry, but also still allow yourself to be loose and have fun back there on that secondary, because you are going up against 2 top-tier wide receivers. But if you can make plays on them like you did in the Chargers game a couple times and some pass breakups, then there's that energy and there's that momentum, and that's how they need to play.
Well, and you want to make plays on them, and like that physicality is important in that, with the DBs and the receivers. But as we saw, a lot of DPI calls, and the Giants have gotten a lot of defensive penalties, and it is hard to find that fine line between playing physical and getting a penalty there. And Russ, you want to see a clean game though.
Well, you just brought up with the penalties. I didn't know that, and the stat came across the graphic. Drew Phillips leads the league defensive players with he had going into that game 6 penalties. We love his aggressiveness, we love his play, but that stuff has to stop. I mean, it's you're a young player, and you're a very, very good player, but that you got to stop beating yourselves. And Matt, you used a word before, which was great. Maybe the Eagles are susceptible. Well, I'll ask everybody this: who's more susceptible, the Eagles or the Giants? That's the difference when we're talking about anger and what. And Brandon brought it up. The Giants are a more susceptible team. You're talking about an Eagle team that's 4-1, and they're the defending champs. So Giants got a lot of work to do, and they got a lot of correcting between now and Thursday night at MetLife Stadium.
Absolutely. A lot of work to do, a lot of correcting, because this is an opponent in your division. And really, it doesn't matter how many wins you get in a season if you're not winning a division game. And these two teams are well familiar with one another. Russ, I know you know that there's a lot of history here. So why don't we turn the page and get into some trivia on Giants Eagles? What do you got for us this week, Russ?
All right, Madeline, folks, what do you know? What do you say? All right. So let's go with today's question. Back in 2001 at Giants Stadium, in a divisional playoff game, Giants beating the Eagles by the score of 20-10. However, in that game, there were 2 non-offensive touchdowns. 2, okay? Not 1, but 2 by the Giants. Who scored those touchdowns?
Jason Sehorn.
Very good. Look at that.
Okay,
Hey,
Sci-Tech.
That's one of my favorite all-time Giants plays ever.
Right?
Love that.
A 32-yard interception where he fell down, bobbled it, picked it up. Yep, great play. Very good, Matt. I'm impressed.
Matt did
like
not
you
even hesitate. He was just like, I got it.
I'm not kidding. That's one of my all-time favorite Giants plays. So that one I was going to get.
If that's the case, you should know both of them then. 'Cause if you, like
2001.
2001.
2
So it was the
non
2000 season, right?
okay, so Jason Sehorn had one. Was it like a special teams play?
Well, yes.
it means the punt had to be returned. I'm gonna go
Well,
Dixon?
Ron Dixon.
Bingo.
Oh, let's go.
There you go.
Bingo. Boy, I
There you
am
go.
impressed. I didn't think you guys would get that one. Very, very good.
What do you know? What do you say? Russ Salzberg coming in with the big hitters every week. I like it.
Very good.
I'm still impressed. I'm impressed with Sci-Tech, literally not even skipping a beat.
He didn't
Sehorn.
blink.
If this was Jeopardy, he would have hit that buzzer immediately.
Matt, were you looking over Pearson's shoulders when he was making these questions up?
Nope.
Very good. I'm impressed. Very, very
I just think that was one of the most acrobatic and just impressive plays.
Yeah, it was.
I was only 8 years old then, and I remember it still.
That's good.
when
That's
he
good.
started the Jason Sehorn fan club Twitter page when he was 8 years old on that play.
We
Right?
didn't exist.
Very good.
We got it. We got it. All right. Listen, Giants Eagles, we know the rivalry. We know the NFC East has got a lot of heat in there, but there's a lot of great rivalries in sports. So I'm curious for everyone, is there one big rivalry that you think of when you think of sports rivalries? What's the first one that comes to mind? Russ, what do you got?
Well, I'm a little older than you people. Let me tell you, there's not much of a bigger rivalry than back in the day when it was the Yankees and Brooklyn Dodgers, because they were facing each other all the time in the World Series. They were in the city. That was super, super intense, and quite frankly, it carried over when the Dodgers went out to the coast. You still hearing the talk about it. You felt it last year when they were in the World Series. Another rivalry to me, and I don't know how many people are hockey fans, but let me tell you, when the Rangers, the New York Rangers, faced off against the Devils, what was it, in the '94 season? It was when the Rangers won the cup, but they faced off in the Eastern Conference Final. The intensity of that 7-game series, when Messier was, declared guaranteeing a victory, that was just about as intense as I could ever remember a rivalry being. So those two for sure. And listen, So hard to top the Yankees and the Red Sox as well.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind for me, definitely Yankees Red Sox. When you think of rivalry in sport outside of, the NFL, that one's top of mind. SciTech, London, what do you got?
Well, I just got to add, since Russ brought up the '94 Rangers team, that as a Devils fan, I just need to say that the very next year, the Devils got a Stanley
Yes.
Cup right
Hey,
back.
I remember that, but that Matteau, I was on the air when that happened at Channel 9, and I will never forget it. Very intense.
Yeah, just had to make sure the viewers were aware the Devils got one back the next year. So,
Okay.
I think we got to add, Lakers Celtics.
Yeah.
That's one,
Yep.
a little bit before my time, but still, appreciate the NBA enough to know that was still to this day one of the biggest rivalries ever.
But even like vintage Lakers Celtics, like Bird Magic, kind of transcended into the early aughts too. The Lakers Celtics had some postseason battles there. And so, yeah, definitely not no on that one.
Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Dan Salomon would get mad at me if I didn't at least bring that up.
Well, also, I think he's mad at you for bringing that up because when's the last time Ohio State won that matchup?
Hey, you said it, not me.
Sorry, Dan. Brandon, who's the biggest UMass rival?
We don't. We don't. The current state of our program right now.
The little sisters of the poor.
Yeah, my little kids' daycare's flag football team right now.
All right, fair.
But for me, it would be my biggest rivalries. One of them would be obviously Yankees Red Sox, because I was at UMass at the time where they reversed the curse and they were flipping cars over. There were riots and all that stuff. That the UMass fan base went crazy when they were able to do that. But I think growing up for me, it was more of the Florida schools, whether it was Miami versus Florida or UF versus Florida State. Always growing up and loving Ed Reed and Edgerrin James, the U. And then there's also Duke, North Carolina, the basketball rivalries, Tobacco Road. I grew up being a Duke fan, and my brother was a UNC fan, so we'd go outside and try and play each other one-on-one and try and relive that. So those are the rivalries that kind of shaped my childhood. But Giants Eagles, I think this is going to be a game where the Giants can come out and maybe shock the world on this one, just like they did with the Chargers, and keep that rivalry going. But yeah,
I don't know, Brandon. I gotta go back to the fact that you were a Duke fan.
I was a Duke fan. Jay Williams, Christian Laettner, Grant Hill. Let's go.
All right, Brandon London is a Dookie. This is breaking news here. Breaking news. We got to wrap my head around that one. All right. Listen, you're right, though. The Giants Eagles is going to be a big one. Thursday Night Football, prime time. Let's get into some over-unders. Let's get into some predictions for this game. Starting with the defense. Russ Salzberg, over under 2.5 sacks for the Giants defense this week.
Under. Yeah, I mean, listen, susceptible or not, these Eagles are tough and they're good and they're the defending champs for a reason. I don't. 2.5 sacks. Yeah, the Giants might get a couple of sacks, but I don't think they're getting more than 2. So, hey, right now I'll sign up for 2 right now as we speak.
Okay, Brandon.
I'll go under, because I think Philly is going to try and set the tone and run the football. That's their bread and butter. And the Giants, like Matt said, held up or held pretty tough last week against the Saints. But I think this is the Eagles. This is their match. This is what they want to do: establish the run and throw the football down the field. So I'll go under.
Matt.
Yeah. So Landon Dickerson, the Pro Bowl lineman for the Eagles, did get hurt in yesterday's game against the Broncos. So I do think if he's unable to play, that is a little bit of a hit, obviously a blow to the Eagles offensive line. But even so, I'm going to have to go with under. Jalen Hurts, obviously, as it goes for most of these dual threat mobile quarterbacks, he's very tough to bring down. And even if Landon Dickerson is unable to go, they still have a lot of talent on that offensive line. The Giants might get to 2, but that third one I think might be a little bit tough. So I'm going to go with under.
Yeah, I think we're unders across the board. I think 2 is a sweet spot, and I think that could be realistic, but 2.5, 3, that's going to be tough to get to in this matchup. Offensively, Giants been getting in the end zone a bit more, but do you see over or under 1.5 rushing touchdowns for this Giants team, Brandon?
I'm going to go under. That's Giants are struggling to run the football right now, and I know they could. The Jackson Dart adds a different element, but I feel as though Philly is going to make them throw the football if they're going to want to beat them. I think the tight ends are going to have another huge game, and that's how the Giants get into the end zone. So I'll go under on the rushing touchdowns.
Russ?
I think I have to go with under as well, just because all the points that Brandon just made. I mean, I could see the Giants getting down close, but I can see it getting tough. What was it was 1.5?
1.5 rushing touchdowns.
Oh boy.
Mm.
You know
So
what?
it's like 1, or do you see 2?
You know what? I'm going to gamble and say I see 2. But if I may, I like to make one quick point, because we've been talking about a lot of, if you will, negatives, because there was a lot of negatives coming out of that game. But there were 2 positives that I saw, and I think everybody would agree. When Jackson Dart fumbled his ball and when Scat fumbled his ball, did you see what happened on the sideline? Almost the entire team came over to each player, pumping them up. And you know what? Those are 2 young players. We're talking about 2 rookies. And when you see that from the veterans and everybody coming over to support those players, that said, to me, the team is headed in the right direction. There's leadership there. People are responding to those guys. I just thought that was a positive that I wanted to make.
No,
They're
you're
still
so
fighting.
right. That player-driven leadership is something that they attribute a lot of success to. Sorry to interrupt you, Brandon.
No, that shows they're still fight,
Yeah.
and you can talk about this team could be in the dump after plays like that. You could see a lot of finger pointing, but the fact that guys are still bringing guys up, they'll still hold each other accountable for sure. But the fact that you're still lifting up your brother, that shows that there's still fight left in this team.
Yeah. So Matt, do you see them fighting for over or under 1.5 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, I am actually going to go with the over on this one. I think the 2 guys that Brandon or Russ, you were both just mentioning, Jackson and Scadaboo, I think those are the 2 guys that are going to get the 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, Jackson, he's looked pretty good. He's had some ups and downs these first 2 games, but the one thing that he's done very well is run the football. That's just as we see across the NFL. It's tough to handle these dual threat quarterbacks that are able to rush the ball successfully. I think he's going to get into the end zone for the second time on the ground. And then in terms of Scadaboo, obviously, if Tyrone Tracy is able to come back, we expect he's going to obviously take some of the carries off of Scadaboo's plate. But I still think Scadaboo is going to punch it into the end zone. If they get down to the goal line, he's probably, despite what happened yesterday, the guy that's going to get the football. And despite the fumble yesterday, he still forced 5 missed tackles. And he's, since these last couple of weeks, since he's kind of taken over as the lead back with Tracy injured, has been among the league leaders in missed tackles forced. I think he's going to, maybe break a tackle or 2 and get into the end zone.
Well, not only is he somebody who's so elusive as a ball carrier and getting into the end zone, but that man threw a pancake on a 6'5" defender yesterday. And Scat is listed at, I want to say 5'10", generously, but he's a small guy and he's got power. And so even if he doesn't get in the end zone carrying the ball, he's going to be effective in a play to help open up the run game by throwing a mean block or 2. So I'm going to take the over on rushing touchdowns as well. I can see the Giants, if they get in the red zone, kind of utilizing that run game and getting a scat block, if not a carry, into the end zone. But in terms of the passing game, let's talk about the receivers. Russ, 190 receiving yards for the Giants as a team. Again, no Malik Neighbors. We saw them utilizing the tight ends more in the passing game. Do they continue to do that? Do they call up another wide receiver? Do they get over 190 air yards in week 6 against the Eagles?
190 yards. I think it's going to be right around that number. But, Brandon brought out a good point, the way Theo and Bellinger play, and I think they're going to be utilized a lot. I'm going to say over. And the one guy who's got to improve, because he might have had his worst game as a pro, was, God bless him, we love him, Darius Slayton. I mean, you got to make plays. And to Darius's credit, after the game, he said he needed to make plays. So that has to come. If that doesn't come, I mean, forget the 190. We'll be lucky if it's 90. So you need to make plays, guys. This is the NFL. It ain't college. You need to make plays. But I'll go with over 190.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to go with over as well. I mean, if this was just the Giants wide receivers, that would be another story. But since we're including the tight ends and the running backs, I'm going to go with the over. I mean, yesterday, the top three receivers on the Giants were Daniel Bellinger, Cam Scadaboo, and Theo Johnson. And considering the talent that the Eagles have in their secondary, we could see a similar sort of performance on Thursday with the Giants, especially leaning on the two tight ends in the passing game. Because, I mean, as soon as Malik got hurt, we kind of said, obviously the Giants are going to need some guys to step up, but this really could be Theo Johnson's time to shine. And 1 week in, so far, so good. So I'm going to go with the over on this one.
All right, Brandon, the resident wide receiver, what you got?
The trifecta, I'm going over on this one. And because we're watching the evolution of the tight end, and Russ Theo is someone we've been talking about throughout the course of this season. And we even said it during the preseason and training camp that, hey, this kid, Russell Wilson, is unlocking Theo Johnson, and that's carried over with Jackson Dart taking over. And as you have question marks on the perimeter on who's going to be your guy, Jackson Dart doesn't have a guy that he can just look over and go, you know what? I'm going to the player, not the play on this one. Right now, Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson give Jackson Dart the best mismatches, I would say right now, throwing the ball across the middle. So I say 50 plus for Theo, 50 plus for Belly, and then another 50 plus for Wan'Dale Robinson. And it's going to be up to the other guys to make plays on the perimeter, but I'll go over 190 for sure.
Yeah, I think that Theo Johnson, as you mentioned too, has become such a security blanket. He's been the recipient of every passing touchdown Jackson Dart has thrown in the NFL, all three of them. And not to mention, they've got the play choreography down in terms of what they're doing and in terms of the adjustments they're making from what they're seeing on the film, and the handshake choreography just goes off. So those two things, the chemistry is there. Russ?
Yep, no, I agree. I as I said, I believe, everybody's going over 190, but Brandon mentioned, and we were talking about Theo Johnson. We had several conversations going back to training camp, and we were disappointed in the first game of the season. But ever since then, it was almost like he heard us talking. He has taken his game to another level, which is good to see. And how about Daniel Bellinger? A lot of, he became the kind of forgotten guy. He's not forgotten any longer. I mean, he's right in there. I mean, they got two very, very functional tight ends.
And the Daniel Bellinger story is the reason why I want Jalen Hyatt to keep his head in it, because adversity is going to happen in the NFL. Darius Slayton went through all types of adversity with this team, but he's still gotten his opportunity after opportunity, or target after target. So that's the same thing a Jalen Hyatt has to remind himself of. Look at Daniel Bellinger. He was a guy that was kind of written off, but he ain't right back though. He's been making it. He's always done a great job catching the football, and he continuously does that. I can see them using him more in the offense going forward.
All right. Well, we'll see if it starts with Thursday night football. The Giants taking on the Eagles Thursday night at MetLife. It's a short week, but that's a wrap for our Week 6 Giants Hangout, brought to you by Crestron. For Russ Salzberg, Matt Sytek, and Brandon London, my name is Madeline Burke. We'll see you next time.